repairing the kickdown switch on your classic Mercedes. Now some of you might want to know what a kickdown switch is first and which models this video is actually going to apply to, because it doesn't apply to everything. And a kickdown switch is a little switch that goes under the gas pedal on classic Mercedes that have an automatic transmission that allows the transmission to shift into a lower gear in case you need to pass somebody or get up to speed on a freeway exit ramp. And the particular switch that we're going to talk about is the combination plastic and metal switch that was used from approximately 1970 all the way into like 1976 on the 115 series cars, and was also used in the 300 SEL 6.3 from 1968, the 280 SL also starting in 1968, the 115 starting in 68. So really I guess it's more of like a late 60s into mid 70s kind of switch. This is the switch I'm talking about though. It lives under the gas pedal. This part goes through the firewall and has a 2-pin plug. And this part goes under the gas pedal and has a little notch for the pedal bar. And when you press down on the gas pedal, you should hear this, or your accelerator linkage is probably misadjusted. Now, the problem with these switches is that most of them do not work by now. And it doesn't mean the switch has failed. It just means that a modification has to be made to that plastic housing that the switch lives in order to make the switch more effective. Now, the first part of this repair involves removing this 24mm metal switch. And this is going to be accomplished from under the front of the car's floorboard. So you're going to pull the switch and the spring. The washer is something that I put on there. It doesn't actually come on there, so don't worry about it. Then that's going to give you access to this plastic nut. Now this plastic nut is not a standard plastic nut. It's a reverse thread nut. It's left-hand thread. Why they did that? I think it's to keep it from coming out of the firewall. If you have a really good original car, there will be a rubber seal here too, but this housing will pull out through the firewall behind the gas pedal. Now, first of all, to make sure that you're actually working with a good switch, you get your ohm meter out. And the way that this is going to work is that you're going to set your ohms up on, I usually do audio in this case. And you're going to test, you're going to hook them up to the pins on the switch. And there's a little hole in the middle of the switch. And when you depress the button that's in the center of this hole, you're going to get a closed signal. You'll get 0.9 ohms, 1.2 ohms, even if you get 10 ohms, that's actually still good enough to make the kickdown solenoid work. Next, you're going to take the housing. So I've already modified this housing, but right here in the housing, you can see a little shoulder. And originally this shoulder was actually significantly longer. It was about 3mm longer. You're going to start shaving down this housing. I would start by taking 2mm off and then screwing the switch in. And if your switch passed its test, sorry, I took a little bit too much off of this one. That's why it's a video subject. But if your switch passed the test, when you depress this button, I know this is a little bit awkward, but when you depress this button, you're going to get an ohm reading of like 2 ohms, 1.5 ohms, 3 ohms, somewhere there. You're going to see continuity occur. And the reason that this is so important is because if this switch doesn't close, the electrical signal that flows through the switch will never get to the kickdown solenoid. And 9 times out of 10, that's why these systems don't work. Now, if it doesn't work on the first go around, that's fine. You just keep taking a little bit more material off each time. But what you should not get is, oh, it doesn't move anymore. That's not good. usually the most you could take off is about 3 millimeters. And when you take about 3 millimeters off, it almost always works. You need to make sure of two things. First of all, that the switch doesn't have a closed resistance reading all the time. That means when you're not pushing on this, if you put the pins of the ohm meter here, you should not get a reading of 1.2 ohms, 1.3 ohms, 4 ohms, etc. You should only get, you should have an infinite reading until you press the button, and then you're going to get resistance. Now, in case you take too much off, that's okay too. You could get a copper washer that's like a 14 millimeter washer like I've gotten here. Stick it on the end of the switch and close it up again and tighten it, and then check it again. You know, so sometimes people make the mistake of taking too much off. What you don't want to do, and the mistake that I made with this because I was being careless, was there's a little pintle in the middle here. You do not want to machine down the pintle. This guy is your best friend because it's what closes the contact of the switch. Once you're done, you put the plastic switch body in the car and then close this reverse thread nut. Tighten it against the firewall. It's 36 millimeters, by the way, so you're going to need a 36 millimeter socket. And remember, it is left-hand thread, so lefty, loosey, righty, tighty. Yeah, it's the... No, it's righty, loosey, lefty, tighty. So remember, it's not a normal thread. Then you put your switch in and tighten it. And then what you can do is go test drive the car. And when you're going like 40 miles an hour in fourth gear and you put your foot down to the floor, it should kick down into third gear and you'll have a little bit more power. This kind of thing is especially useful if you have a 115 diesel, like a 220D automatic or a 300D automatic or a 240D automatic. If you have a working kickdown switch, suddenly you'll find the car has all kinds of usable power that you never thought it did, because it won't be stuck in the same gear all the time. Anyway, if you found this video useful, please subscribe to this channel. And I hope that at least 10 people like this. And if any of you, have any additional questions about this, I'm trying to read the comments in my videos more, although I may not respond to them. If any of you guys have any other suggestions for videos like this, drop it in the comments so we can make a video about it in the future. Enjoy working on your Classic Mercedes.